Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Spencer Cullor. Thanks for being on the show, Spencer.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have Spencer on the show. He is a multifamily expert who specializes in adding value to real estate investments. He's now created over $10 million in equity in the last 7 years. He grew up in a family rock quarry business, and after college helped grow a software business before starting a real estate investment business with his father. Now he grows the business by putting together private investment groups where all can share in the success. So, Spencer, thanks again for being on the show. I look forward to diving in a little bit in your experience and just in real estate, how you've grew this equity and some challenging things you're working on right now that we discussed. But give the listeners a little more about just who you are and what your focus is now and how you got there.
Sure. Like I said, my name is Spencer Cullor. I'm the president of ApartmentVestors. We put together private investment groups to go buy and add value to multifamily investments. We kind of focus on three things. One's improving the property that we're on, improving the community that we're in, and then improving our investors' bottom line. So those are kind of the things that drive us in our real estate investments and kind of why we really like multifamily investments.
So you said go through that list again, improving the property, and what was the second thing?
Improving the communities that we're in. By a lot of times we take on a challenging asset that maybe has had problems for the city or problems for an area, and we really clean it up. We get the city involved to really improve the profile of that property. And then we try to participate in the cities that we're involved in, and then provide improving our investors' bottom line.
Nice.
When we do all those things. So it's kind of a three-pronged approach we take to every investment.
No, I like that. I don't hear people talk about, the community very often. You and I talked a little bit about, just like solving challenging problems, and you like to focus on that, which is great. It's a good skill to have. Could you tell us about maybe a recent property, or get us started in a property where you had a recent challenge that you had to solve?
Sure. We recently bought two properties and then one down the street from it in an area. They're all within a block of each other. And after taking them over, we've, figured out a little more about some challenging tenants that were living in the area on the property, and some just challenges the area was having. So one of the things we did was immediately, and we do this on most of our investments, we get involved with the local community, with the police department, the city, to try to see what we can do to help, one, improve the property, and then with doing that, what can we do to help the area in general around it. And what we found with this is that, one, we get a lot of satisfaction out of this, but it makes you feel really good when you see an area start to turn, but it also really improves your property value, because rents start coming up all around you. You get your neighbors involved. They start raising rents as well. And then you can see profits really multiply when you do that. But we had a property that had some hidden challenges on the physical side. So we did a physical renovation. We did exterior, interior, and with that, we had to take the occupancy really low because we found out the previous ownership wasn't doing screening, all those type of things, weren't checking for criminal background. They were just kind of filling the property with anybody they could to keep it appear to be a certain occupancy so they could sell it. So one of the things we had to do before we could bring in the tenant profile that we needed was to clear out some of those challenges and challenging tenants that would have been better suited living someplace else. And then do the renovations so that we could attract the right kind of tenants. But in this particular block, it's in a really nice area all around it, but we had kind of a one block area that had at one point there was an ownership group that came in there that owned like 4 of the properties. They let them all run down. It went into probate and some other things, and so this area developed kind of a bad reputation. So one of the things we did was get all of our neighbors involved. We formed a neighborhood community watch group. We shared resources with security officers, and we shared band books and all kinds of information back and forth with those people. We also got the city involved to see what we could do from a grant standpoint to, add more sidewalks to the area, what we could do from we got a lot of the foundations, churches around the area to help pitch in. And with that, we've seen really a resurgence of that area in the last 6 months, where everybody's kind of jumped on board, even the ones that were skeptical at first. And you're seeing everybody clean up their properties and start to do renovations and take pride in their properties, which is making the rents in the whole area go up. So it will end up helping their property values too, but it will definitely help ours as well.
So I hope you got a couple hours, because I got about 58 questions here about everything you said.
Sure.
So, I made a bunch of questions here, but could you give us a couple examples of the challenging tenants that maybe you weren't expecting? When you, before you purchased property, maybe you thought you knew about all of them, but then afterwards, like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah. Well, we always expect a certain amount of turnover in a property when we take over, because we're usually taking over a property that's had some challenges, or the management company or ownership has kind of been burnt out or kind of given up over the course of so many years. So they've owned it for a long time, so some of them find interests other places and kind of lose focus on the properties, which there's no other asset class you can definitely not do that in multifamily. You might be able to do that in a nice retail center and get away with it, but multifamily is a living, breathing investment that you have to take care of and feed every day. Or it can go snowball on you. And a lot of times that's what's happened to an investor. So it wasn't by maybe malintent, but they just got ran down, or they had some issues. So we always expect maybe a 10% drop in vacancy after we take over, and we plan that in. But on this particular property, on one of them, it was a 64 unit property, and we took it down to 2 tenants by the time we were done. Which we were doing some huge renovations, and the tenants were all way below rent, but when they started seeing what we were doing, a lot of the tenants weed themselves out. Yeah. They make decisions that they're not going to participate in one way or another. But we had some families that didn't pay any attention to their kids, and so we had a little gang of kids that were running around breaking windows every night, and so we were getting 4 or 5 windows broken a week. And so that was, I'm not used to taking care of that. We actually found somebody, and this is the strangest one I've had, running a delivery business restaurant out of their apartment, which was interesting. I think it wasn't that any one of those issues was unusual. It's that they were all at the same place and all at the same time. So dealing with so many of them at once, and then having to take the occupancy down so low, which can be a really scary thing, but you have to make that choice. Who are we going to be, and what's our property going to be? And so we made that conscious choice. And if people wouldn't get on board, they had to find someplace else where they could do what they wanted to.
So going for, 64 units, let's say, I don't know what the vacancy or occupancy was when you started, but going down to 2 tenants, is that something, or tell me, like, how did investors perceive this? Is this something they expected, or how did you portray that to them? So they're not getting nervous.
We had a few that, asked some real serious questions, and we always welcome those. Luckily, a lot of our investors have been with us for multiple deals, so they understand our track record and what we've been able to do. We told them in this deal that this was a turnaround project from the beginning. So we just were very transparent every month with reports and calls and a commentary on here's exactly what we're doing, here's why, here's going to be the upside of this, and that you don't usually get a property that isn't brand new that you can go in and you can completely renovate all at once and re-tenant it. So we looked at it more as a positive and as an opportunity that, well, we weren't going to have to wait for loss to lease and stuff to burn off. We could really quickly then fill those with the tenants that we wanted at the lease rates that we were able to get, which were significantly higher than where they were before, which would then create the most value for that property in a really short time.
Yeah.
The scary part with that is the cash flow.
Yeah.
It's very negative to begin with, and then you have to build it back. So you definitely have to be prepared to take on that kind of property, and it's not something for a beginner, for sure.
So, so you got all how did you get all the tenants out, quickly? Like, how did you get that many out that fast, or was that planned?
Well, several of them weren't paying, so that made it real easy there. And then others had other issues that came up that warranted an eviction. Some we just talked to about where rents and what we were doing with the property, and they decided they wanted to go someplace else. We would let them out of their lease if they wanted. It really was a lot through attrition and through conversations we had that were very open with the tenants.
We
had a few too that transferred to another property that we had started the renovations on first. That was next door. So we were able to accommodate them while we took care of this other.
Was this property close to where you live?
No. And that was a challenge. It's about 5 hours away or 4 hours away.
So you got all the tenants out. What was the game plan then? Like, how did you say, okay, we have got to get this renovation done and we've got to make all these things happen? What was really your all's thought process and plan going forward?
Sure. Well, it was one, we've got to make the exterior look beautiful. So the first thing we did is took care of the exterior, because you've got to make it someplace that people want to drive by and they want to stop and say, I want to check that out. The next thing was focusing completely on make-readies. You can't lease it if it's not ready. So we're a big believer in you got to have all the make-readies done and ready to show. And then setting up a really nice model that people can see and picture themselves, because a lot of people don't have vision to look in a blank apartment, just like a blank house when we were building those. To get top value, you really have to stage it and show them how they can use that space. So that was a big part of it.
Who is Vinny Smile Chopra? Came to the U.S. from India with $7 in his pocket, and today he has created a portfolio of over $200 million in commercial real estate. He's a CEO of 5 companies, acquiring and managing diverse multifamily portfolio of 3,500 units, and his team self-manage all the assets. Vinny has walked the walk with over 26 successful syndications during multiple economic cycles, including downturns over 12 years. He has built a very extensive educational academy to teach and mentor investors. Vinny, tell us about this Multifamily Syndication Academy.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you so much. I'm really proud to really talk to everybody about this extensive multifamily academy that teaches new and sophisticated investors how to use other people's money through syndications. That has been my world, to buy apartments from 50 units to 500 units, and how to select emerging markets, how to do deal analyzing, investor education, other people money, syndication blueprints. Everything I have learned, I teach in this academy. and over 500 lectures, and also how to manage the assets also, and along with lots of great templates and PowerPoints, everything. And I personally also mastermind coach all my students every Wednesday. So to reach me, Whitney, all the students have to, or investors have to, just text the word learn, 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 to 474747, or call my team at 925-766-3518.
Nice. So I liked also how you talked about getting involved with the community. I haven't heard, I don't know if I've heard any guests talk about that, maybe one other, but tell us what you did to get involved with the community, or a couple steps that maybe we should think about when we're, was this a Class C or D property? What would you consider it?
At the time, it was Class C.
Okay.
Yeah. So now our goal is to bring it up into kind of the B range.
Yeah.
But at the time, it had been a problem property for the city. So one of the first things we did was talk to them during the due diligence about, here's our plan, here's what we want to do, and try to get them on board. So it's really hard to go into an area with maybe a problem, a property that's been a problem for the city. And we had to talk to them about, here's our plan, here's what we've done in other cities, here's what we've done with other properties, here's what we can see for this area. Are you willing to partner with us on this? And not from a financial standpoint, but more from a resources. If we call for police help, can you help patrol an extra time or two during the day? Or if we're going to get rid of this challenging person that keeps causing problems in the area, are you going to support us in that? And what can we do then in return to help you in things that you're interested in? And one of the things that really helped us in this particular case was showing them what we were doing with the entire area and the neighborhood, which is, I think this is something we do that's very different than a lot of, especially syndicators or real estate investments. To us, it's not just about the property. For it to achieve its highest potential, we've got to also affect the people around us. And multifamily, I think, has the biggest opportunity to do that because you have hundreds of tenants living in a real small area. So we were able to get over 1,600 units in that area on board with what we were doing, plus commercial properties, plus businesses in the area, plus investors in a nice park that are right down the street, and the local YMCA. And so we were able to take the momentum of get all the momentum of all these people, splitting resources, sharing information, sharing security officers, so we could get the cost down on that. And when the city saw that we were putting all that together, we presented it to them as an opportunity for them to really come on board and take credit for it and see it as a real success. We had a city council member then that's been super helpful in that and really instrumental in helping us kind of pull that together and getting the city on board. But we've seen huge growth over the last 6 months, and I'm really excited to see what it's going to be, a year from now.
Yeah, you said so many good things right there. I really appreciate you going through that and just how, just really getting the whole community involved, talking. And even you talked about like sharing the security officers to get the costs down, and, and even offering, I can see then that being beneficial to, other complexes, or getting them on board if they're going to be able to lower their costs. And then also you mentioned letting the police department take some of the credit, for, or letting them take credit for helping improve the place and the area. So, you mentioned hidden challenges on the physical side, causing you to have to take occupancy really low. What were some of the hidden challenges?
Well, one of the things that happens when you have vacant buildings, they don't age very well. So one of the things when you have tenants in there and a pipe freezes, because the tenant lets you know right away. If you have vacant units, you really have to monitor those all the time. And if something happens, you may not find it right away, which means that it can cause lots of damage before you know about it. So, I mean, those are just some of the challenges you have with a more vacant property. You also don't have the tenants looking out for the property and paying attention to what's going on. So it invites less than desirables there to have their mischief. So, you know, some of those challenges are just, it's the same kind of things you deal with when you've got a really occupied or class B, B plus property. It's just when you don't have it occupied as much, things happen. You get things stolen. You get, you know, you walk in and your stove that was there is no longer there, or you find out that you had a busted pipe for a week and your water bill went up by $1,000. All those kind of challenges that you just have to be prepared for, and you have to have a team in place that is going by and checking vacants. And it can just, these kind of properties can be really challenging too, because it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back all the time until you really get it turned. So a lot of times these take 2 years to fully get them turned and to get everything smoothed out and working the way you want. So you have to have that real fortitude to stick with it, even sometimes when you're not seeing the results right away. It's scary to take a property down in occupancy, and it doesn't look good on the financials at all. But sometimes you have to sacrifice some in the beginning to get where you want to get in the end.
Sure. So how long have you owned that property now?
About 9 months.
And where are you all at in that process now of remodeling and getting it re-rented?
Yeah, it's finishing the last make-readies and leasing up. You know, the real positives with that is we've been able to lease even 15% higher than our highest projections before we bought the property, but it's taken a lot of work. I think at one point we were working on over 100 make-readies at once.
Wow.
And that's a scary make-ready board when you've got that up there and you've got 100 listed on there. And it's definitely a challenge. You got to have an experienced team on the ground and on the property that can see through that. Hiring at the beginning was a challenge because, you know, maintenance guys would see what we wanted to be done, and they may not have the same vision as you do. And they know that it's going to be a lot of work. And so, you know, some of them don't want to take on that big of a challenge. We had guys that turned us down for maintenance at the beginning that now come back to us wanting a job on the property because they've seen what's been done there. So that was kind of one of those unforeseen challenges when you've got people that you're trying to beg to take the job at the beginning. And so it's just, there's so many little things that people don't think about when they take on a big challenge, or especially with multifamily. You get a lot of people that come, they hear that multifamily is hot, and so they put their money in a property without understanding how it works. And your team in multifamily is so important for the success of it, and just staying on top of things every single day.
Awesome. So Spencer, somebody comes to you. I'm sure you get this question often. You know, but somebody comes to you and they're wanting to get into this business, syndication business. You know, what are just a couple things? You know, you got 30 seconds to a minute to talk to them. What do you tell them?
I'd say start small. Make sure you get your documentation and legal work correct. And I always say, if you can, start on the first project with your own money. Form a track record, learn on your own dime, or work for somebody else before you start. I think that's a really good way to start. One of our first investments was with family money, and we put it into a retail center, and we didn't really understand retail or what we were getting into. And I can tell you, I learned more on that property than any of the others I've ever worked on. And it took us I'd say 5-6 years to get out of that deal.
Wow.
When you start, you just don't know what you don't know. But I'd say I learned so much from that made us successful in every deal after that, from those lessons of things not going well right off the beginning. So I'd say before you take money from somebody else to put in your deals, make sure that you've got your system down and you've got some experience.
What's been the hardest part of the syndication business for you?
I think some of the biggest challenges for me is that when I started, I didn't have a natural network of people with means and that were accredited investors and things. So that was a challenge trying to grow a new network. I think it's interesting in the syndication business until you get to a certain level. You can't do advertising, you can't do anything. So it's just kind of spreading word of mouth about what you do to the right people. And then, showing that track record, especially when you don't have it to start. You got to have the first couple people believe in you, and then you've got to perform, and then you've got to keep performing on the deals. And as you go, it becomes much easier and easier, especially as you show success over and over again, and that it's duplicatable. But at the beginning, it's all about your credibility. It's all about your belief in what you're doing and your knowledge of what you're doing.
Nice. No, I appreciate that, and I can relate to that, having to really build a network, from scratch. But tell us a way that you've recently improved your business that we can all apply to ours.
Yeah, one of the smartest things we did was hire a really experienced regional manager on the property management side. It made things so much easier. One, bringing in somebody with knowledge that was much greater than mine on the actual running of the day-to-day operations on a property, but someone who was able to bring their own experience, their own contacts, their own vendors that they've worked with, and just a different energy, and somebody else that you can bounce ideas off of. It's not good always. You don't necessarily want to be the smartest guy on every topic that you work with. You've got to trust really good people and hire people that are much smarter than you in certain areas. And I think that was a really important thing that we did that's really kind of helped us take a big jump in our business, was hire a really good regional manager that could help. And one of the cool things that's even come out of that I didn't expect is it's really helped us find other deals off market too, that know that person and have seen what they're doing with us, and they get excited about what she's talking about, and she's getting excited about the different projects and what we're doing on them. And that's really helped open up new investors. It's helped open up new properties for us. So that's been one of the biggest things that we've done in the last year that's really helped kind of grow the business and help operate at a maximum level.
I like that a lot. If you're the smartest person in every aspect of your business, you're not going to go very far, are you?
No, it's really hard to grow when you do that.
So, Spencer,
I'm definitely not.
What's the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
I think it's just been the stick-to-itness, the not willing to give up. I think a lot of times, especially at the beginning, this business is not an instant business. It takes quite a while to build up and to really see. It's kind of a delayed gratification business where you can do extremely well, but it takes a while to get there. And so I think the biggest thing has been, we found our niche, we put on blinders on everything else that came up, and we just focused on exactly what we knew we could do the best, and wanted to get the best at that one thing. Felt like if we could do that, we would be successful. And then it was really putting on the blinders and just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
I like that. And so tell us, is there a need in your business right now that you'd like to put out to the listeners?
I mean, we continue to look for partners that can help us open up new properties, and we will be looking for more team members as we grow here. Eventually, we're going to hire a second regional manager for our business. And
where are you looking for somebody? What states or areas?
right now, we're in Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma.
Okay.
But we kind of expect to expand kind of south as we go. So 3 states now. I expect it probably in the next 5 years will be probably in 5 states.
Nice. So how do you like to give back?
We do a lot with our properties in the communities that we're in. So we like to support a lot of the causes that are important to those areas. That's one of the things we do. And my wife and I also do volunteering and participate in our local community as well. So.
Great. Awesome. Well, Spencer, how can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about your business?
Sure. They can visit us on our website. It's ApartmentVestors.com, or they can give us a call anytime at 913-324-5900. And we'd love to talk to them if they have any questions and help any way we can.
Spencer, I really appreciate your time being on the show. You provided some amazing content today, and I haven't talked to anyone yet on the show that took a property down to 2 units, or that I know of anyway. So
I don't know if I ever want to do that again. It's not for the faint of heart.
Missed a little bit of sleep probably anyway.
Yeah.
So, but
a little more stress than you need. But
thank you again, and I appreciate the listeners, being with us today. And I hope you all will go to LifeBridge Capital and connect with me, and also go to the Facebook group. And I want to remind you where you can ask questions of future guests. I try to post the future guests on the group, so you can leave questions you want to hear me ask on the show. But we will talk to each of you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.